What would you do if the most important person in your life suddenly slipped away, leaving you desperate and helpless? This is the heart-wrenching story of CEO Toan's mother, who unexpectedly falls gravely ill, turning their perfect world upside down. Witness how Ly Tu Diem steps in with unwavering love and care, becoming a beacon of hope during the darkest hours. Her devotion not only saves a life but wins a mother's blessing for a future filled with love. Don't miss this emotional journey. Subscribe now and join us as we unfold this touching tale of family, sacrifice, and hope. The morning began like any other in the Toan family estate, calm, quiet, and bathed in the golden light of dawn. Birds chirped faintly outside the windows, and the scent of fresh jasmine drifted through the hallways. The household staff had already begun preparing breakfast, and the usual sounds of morning footsteps echoed faintly from the kitchen. But something was off. The matriarch of the house, Mrs. Toan, a woman of strength, discipline, and sharp presence, had not yet come downstairs. At first, no one thought much of it. Perhaps she was tired. Perhaps she had slept in, though that was unlike her. But as the minutes ticked by and her absence grew longer, a sense of unease began to build, subtle but persistent. Her daughter, Mai, the older sister of CEO Toan, decided to check on her mother. She approached the door and knocked gently. "Mom? Are you awake?" she called, her voice light but uncertain. No answer. She knocked again, a little louder this time. Still silence. Mai's instincts flared with worry. Without waiting further, she turned the handle and slowly pushed the door open. The sight that met her eyes made her blood run cold. There, lying motionless on the large bed, was their mother. Her body was still, her face pale, lips tinged with an alarming shade of blue. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing, if present at all, was shallow to the point of invisibility. "Me oi! Me oi!" Mai cried out, rushing to her mother's side, her voice trembling with panic. Her scream echoed down the hallway, alerting everyone in the house. Within seconds, Toan and his fiancée Ly Tu Diem came running. "What happened?" Toan's voice cracked as he stepped into the room. Seeing his mother's lifeless body on the bed sent a jolt of horror through him. He rushed to her side, trying to shake her gently, calling her name over and over again. But she didn't respond. "Call an ambulance now!" Ly Tu Diem shouted to the housekeeper as she pulled a blanket over the elderly woman and checked her pulse. "She's ice cold." The next few minutes were chaos. Fear gripped everyone like a vice. The ambulance arrived swiftly, and paramedics rushed into the bedroom, immediately assessing her condition. She was still alive, but barely. Toan sat in the back of the ambulance, holding his mother's hand, eyes filled with tears. He had never seen her this fragile before. For all his strength and success as a CEO, in that moment, he was just a scared son watching his mother slip through his fingers. Ly Tu Diem followed close behind in her own car with Mai, her hands clenched tightly on the steering wheel as she fought to stay composed. Her heart raced with worry, not only for the woman who lay unconscious, but also for the man she loved, who was breaking apart piece by piece in front of her. The hospital was ready. Doctors and nurses acted quickly, wheeling the woman into the emergency room. Toan, Diem, and Mai were left behind in the hallway, staring through the double doors as they closed, sealing their loved one behind. Time stood still. In that moment, none of the power, wealth, or influence that the Toan family held mattered. All that remained was a raw, desperate hope that the woman who had given them life, strength, and love would wake up and return to them again. The hours that followed were heavy with silence. In the sterile corridor of the hospital, the cold air conditioning contrasted harshly with the burning anxiety in everyone's hearts. Toan sat on a bench, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. Beside him, Ly Tu Diem stood still, one hand resting gently on his shoulder, her other clutching a thermos of warm tea she'd brought in haste. Her eyes never left the closed door to the emergency room. Inside, doctors were working tirelessly to stabilize his mother. The initial diagnosis was a stroke, likely brought on by exhaustion and high blood pressure, a silent, creeping illness that had given no warning. Hours passed like days. The wait was excruciating. When the doctor finally emerged, his face was calm but serious. "She's stable," he announced, "but still unconscious. We've managed to prevent the stroke from progressing, but the next 48 hours are critical." Relief came like a sudden gust of air, but the anxiety didn't leave. They moved her to a private recovery room. Machines beeped softly beside the hospital bed, a steady rhythm that offered some comfort, though the sight of her frail figure among the tubes and wires broke everyone's heart. From that moment on, Ly Tu Diem became an unwavering pillar. She didn't leave the hospital. Not even once. Every morning, she woke early to help Mai coordinate meals and medications. She took turns sitting by the bedside, carefully wiping the sweat from the elder woman's forehead with a warm cloth, massaging her hands, and speaking softly to her, telling stories, reminding her of beautiful memories, coaxing her soul to stay. "She loves morning jasmine tea," she whispered one day, gently holding the woman's hand. "And she never liked too much sugar in her soup." No one had told her those things, she had simply observed, cared, and remembered. Toan watched her from across the room, silently awestruck. He had always loved her, for her intelligence, her resilience, her quiet confidence, but it was in these quiet moments that he saw something even deeper, the heart of a woman capable of carrying a family, of loving without boundaries, of giving even when no one asked. The nurses began to take notice as well. "Your wife," one of them asked Toan, watching Diem patiently adjusting a blanket and tucking in the corners. "Not yet," Toan replied, eyes soft. "But I hope, soon." Mai, too, was moved. She had always been protective of their mother, wary of the women who came in and out of Toan's life. But Diem was different. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't seek approval. She simply acted gently, compassionately, without a single complaint. Late one night, as the others slept, Diem sat alone beside the bed, her eyes fixed on the sleeping figure before her. The hum of the machines, the soft light above, and the faint scent of medicine filled the room. She took the elderly woman's hand in hers. "You don't know how much I want you to be okay," she murmured, her voice breaking. "Not just for Toan, but for me too. Because I've come to love you as my own." She didn't know that, at that very moment, a tear had slipped from the corner of the old woman's closed eye, or that, deep within her unconscious state, a mother's heart had already begun to awaken to the love that surrounded her. Days passed slowly, the hospital room bathed in a soft, muted light that barely seemed to reach the shadows beneath the elderly woman's closed eyelids. Family and friends came and went, their footsteps hushed, their voices low in reverence for the fragile life that hung in the balance. Yet amid the quiet vigil, hope flickered like a candle struggling against the dark. One afternoon, as a gentle breeze stirred the curtains, the subtle movement of an eyelid caught the attention of Ly Tu Diem. She had been sitting beside the bed for hours, holding the woman's hand, whispering stories of the past, dreams of the future, and the promise of love that waited just beyond the haze of unconsciousness. Suddenly, the old woman's eyes fluttered open. A gasp escaped Diem's lips as tears sprang to her eyes. "Mom, you're awake." Her voice was barely more than a whisper, trembling with a mixture of relief and overwhelming emotion. The woman's gaze was slow to focus, but when it did, it landed on Diem's face, the gentle, tireless caretaker who had sat through long nights, wiped away sweat and tears, and refused to leave her side. A faint, tired smile curved the corners of the woman's lips. "Diem, you've been so good to me," she murmured, her voice weak but filled with gratitude. Diem squeezed her hand gently. "We all were worried. But you're strong. You're going to get better." Not long after, Toan and Mai were called into the room. As they stepped inside, the woman's eyes filled with recognition and warmth. She reached out with surprising strength to take her son's hand. "Toan, my dear son," she said softly, voice filled with emotion. "Thank you for being here." Tears glistened in Toan's eyes as he knelt beside her. "Mom, we were so scared. But you're awake now, and that's all that matters." The moment was tender, fragile, and full of unspoken words. It was as if time itself had slowed to allow them to savor the miracle of her awakening. Later that evening, as the room quieted and the sun dipped below the horizon, the woman called Diem closer. The soft glow of the bedside lamp cast gentle shadows on her face, highlighting the genuine affection and sincerity in her eyes. "Diem," she began slowly, pausing to gather her thoughts, "I've seen how tirelessly you've cared for me, through sleepless nights and endless days. You never complained, you never left my side. You showed a love that goes beyond words." Diem bowed her head humbly, cheeks flushed with emotion. The woman continued, "I want you to know, you have my blessing. Toan is my son, and I have always wished for his happiness. Seeing you here, caring for me as your own mother, I know he has found someone truly special." With a faint but radiant smile, she added, I hope you and Toan will soon be married. It would mean the world to me." Tears welled up in Diem's eyes, and Toan, standing quietly by the door, felt his heart swell with gratitude and love. In that moment, every trial, every fear, every sleepless night faded away, replaced by the warmth of family and the promise of a new beginning. The road ahead might still hold challenges, but with their mother's blessing and the strength of their bond, Toan and Diem knew they could face anything together.